Welcome back to the Leadership Effect. Today we're talking about the holy grail of leadership, engagement.
The holy grail of leadership, indeed. It's a word that gets thrown a lot around, like engagement. We've all been in those teams where we were inspired, where we were buzzing, where we wanted to be part of, and everyone else wanted to be part of. And then we've been into the other teams.
Oof. Yes, the Sunday Scaries team.
The one where you're dreading to go in the next morning to the office.
I know. But here's the thing we're going to hammer home today. Engagement isn't just a vibe, it's a performance system. So to kick us off, I have some stats from Gallup. So
are they belonging to the Sunday Scaries?
No, not really. I mean, the teams in the top quarter of engagement are 23% more profitable than teams in the bottom.
I mean, like 23%, that's not even a rounding error. That's kind of like your competitive advantage. And I don't know why a lot of business leaders actually hone in on that more and more and more, because actually, if you've got engaged teams, you're so much more productive. And actually, there are studies after studies show the benefit of having engaged teams. And I'm going to read this off because I keep forgetting it because it's so lie. But it's engaged teams have higher customer loyalty, which is around actually 18% higher sales. So engagement isn't just fluffy HR stud or HR theater. It's actually your competitive advantage. It is your driver for growth.
And here's the kicker and why we're talking to you as a leader. The research is painfully clear. About 70%, yes, you heard me, 70% of the difference in a team's engagement comes from
the manager. Exactly. One of my favorite quotes, I think I talk to that quite often, is you never leave a company, you leave a manager.
Yes.
So the managers have a lot of pressure on their shoulder to keep their team engaged, the employees engaged. And that is what we really talk about today. We're going to go into the organizational part, obviously, as well. But what we really want to spend time on is how can you as a leader keep your team engaged and create engagement that goes beyond the fruit basket. It goes beyond the kind of like the company parties and the pizza Fridays or whatever they are all called, right?
Exactly. I mean, that is not engagement, right?
No.
It's kind of, perks and moments and nice to have.
Yeah, exactly. And engagement is more than that. It's a commitment. It's how we live in the work every day. So we're talking here about having clear goals, having fair treatment, having opportunity for learning and growth. Those are actually the differences that make engagement out.
It really is. And let's start kind of at the 3,000 foot view. We've all seen the annual engagement surveys, the pulse surveys, the organizational health surveys. Yeah. Do they really work?
Well, they do work if companies don't just do it as a tick box exercise. I've worked in companies where there was a survey done, but nothing ever happens or fake things were done. And actually, what then happens is that employees get really frustrated about filling out those surveys because why would we bother? Like, they don't listen to us anyway. So yes, surveys are great, but what's more important, what is done with those results?
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen so many org health survey results, right?
Gosh, yeah.
And one of the lowest items is actually my manager acted on the results from last year.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is kind of concerning, right? But it's kind of, if you think about the survey more as a health check, it's the X-ray.
Yeah.
Like the report itself doesn't really
do anything, right?
No, it's just the results.
Yeah. You have to do and work with those results and make a huge difference. Because in the end of the day, if you ask feedback and you never do anything, why would people bother? Right?
Exactly. So the work actually starts when the results come in.
Yeah. So for any senior leaders listening, what is the one thing after a survey you're going to do?
I mean, I would just keep it simple and public. I mean, publish maybe 2-3 org-wide kind of commitments and then ask every single leader to follow up with their teams. And then follow up.
And
right?
that's the important part, right? Follow up. What have you actually done to move the dial forward? What are you invested in it as a leader to really make a difference?
Yeah.
That I think that's for me kind of like what the key. So if you talk about it, I want you behind it. I don't want just lip service that things are working. I want real tangible results.
Yeah, and you said follow up. So after 3 months, go back and say, what's the progress? What have you done? What are you going to continue doing? And then you do the same after 6 months and after 9 months and after 12 months, like keep it alive, right?
Yeah. And that is kind of like on an organizational matter. But as a leader on a more human, individual thing, level, that's what I want to say. It's more about kind of like what are the experiences you want to create within your team to create engagement. And I always like to think about like moments that matter. I think in one of the companies that we worked for, we were talking a lot about kind of like moments that matter in an employee journey.
Yeah, I mean, companies map their customer journey, right? So why not map their employee journey? And if I could obsess like of one of those moments, it's really the onboarding, because the data is staggering.
Yeah.
Companies that have a strong onboarding program, they have 82% higher retention than companies with a poor onboarding program. And, new hires hit productivity 70 times faster.
Yeah.
70%, sorry, not 70 times.
Yeah, but that is a stat that is kind of like self-explanatory, right? And it's a massive lever, really, that they can pull. And if you think about what impact engagement has, not just on the employees, but also on the loyalty, on the customer retention, on the engagement from the customers, it's huge. So if you think about the onboarding process, like I worked in companies where I was really buzzing that I was kind of like starting there, but actually then I was there, there was not even a laptop. I mean, like, how crap is that? My manager didn't even know that I was there. But then I also worked in companies where the first few weeks were already planned for me of meeting different people, being part of the team. And I knew before I joined, I said like, oh, these are the right decisions to join this company. And it made a huge difference in how engaged I felt.
I mean, it does. I mean, they hired you to do a job, right? So if no one even knows that you're there the first day, you don't really feel seen.
No, and you don't feel part of the company. And therefore, the engagement is like, straight down.
And I think another part to remember as well is actually the other end of the life cycle, the exit. It's something we tend to kind of forget, but a respectful exit is quite critical. And it's kind of how you leave it when people walk out the door. That says something about your brand. And boomerang talent is kind of a thing. Like, why would they want to come back if they don't leave with respect?
And to be fair, there are some CEOs out there that say like, and I worked in those companies, I don't believe in rehiring people. If they leave, they're dead to me. And I mean, like, how?
Oh, they're missing out on great talent. That's one thing. But also a talent can go somewhere and then they can gain new experiences, new skills, new capabilities, new network. And then when they come back, can provide an enormous amount of capabilities and results to the company.
Yeah. And if you think about it, like in today's, and I feel I haven't said or heard this term quite a long time, war for talent. You can't really afford this kind of like ethos either. So yeah, definitely really respectfully exit your people, but also think about really what reputation that leaves for your company nowadays with visibility into your brand and things like Glassdoor. When I'm going for a new job, or when I used to go, because nowadays I'm not going for a new job, I always would look on Glassdoor what people say about the company and how they left the company. And most of the time, it's people that used to work there that filling these things out.
True.
And if they leave on a good terms with a good exit interview, they have much nicer things to say about you. And it's also feedback that you can gather why someone left the company, what is the reason behind it, and so on and so forth. Is something that is another layer of data that can give you information on what to give. But I'm feeling we're going a little bit off scale about what the leader can actually do.
Well, I mean, we've talked about the onboarding and we've talked about kind of the offboarding or the exit, right? But you have all of these like tiny moments in between. That is super important because it's something about seeing the individual where they are. It's about how you give them feedback. It's about how you recognize them, saying thank you. And it's about who gets stretch projects, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's also really important to think about kind of like, we call it almost stay interviews. So before actually someone leaves, you want to kind of like make sure is what are your next steps? How can I help you grow? How can I support you? Connecting you to the right people in the business. I think before we recorded that we spoke to old colleagues, and it was a lot of the things. Sometimes it's you getting kind of promoted for the people that you know rather for not always your competency, and actually then being able to, as a manager, being able to connect your employees to the right people can make a huge competitive advantage on your own career.
Yeah. But I do want to bring us back to kind of one point, and that is that the manager plays a crucial role. And as we were kind of prepping for this podcast, I was reflecting on when was I the most engaged, or what moments did I feel really engaged? And I wanted to share one of those because one of my managers, he gave me quite direct feedback, and he was like, if you want to get promoted, you need more visibility to the right people. It's what you said about the visibility piece, right? And you need to show your strategic thinking when you get that exposure. So instead of kind of leaving me to figure it out on my own, he kind of pulled me into some strategic work, like strategic sector work. And he kept me in the loop of conversations that happen in meetings that I weren't part of, right? Because if not, I wouldn't have known, because it's something with the perspectives that we have. And I shared that feedback with my second manager, because in these matrix organizations, you often have two. And he pulled me into a big global strategic project where I represented the sector. And, you know, I felt so seen. And they really created that safe space for me to have that candid conversation where I got the feedback that I needed, right? And they helped me act on it, more importantly, right? So it's just feeling seen, heard, and recognized. It really accelerated my growth.
Yeah, and I think it's also about understanding what that person needs as well. So I've got a similar example. It was you actually who did it. But when I first joined the organization that we're working in together, the first 3 months, I almost felt kind of like I was part of the company, but I wasn't necessarily seen or visible. So then we had a big HR conference where I was asked to basically present my subject matter expert, and I was kind of terrified because it was the first time that I had to go out there and talk about basically what I'm doing, which is not nerve-wracking in itself, but suddenly you are seen as the expert and you kind of like have to run through it. But actually, when you stepped in then, in the sense of you took over the team, you were really someone who guided and coached me and said like, okay, these are the things, or what are the things that you actually need to present? How are you feeling about it? And you were really, really supportive in I felt really kind of like supported going in there. So it wasn't actually as terrifying. And it was absolutely buzzing coming out of that meeting. And from that moment on, it made a huge difference to me of how I've been seen in the company and how I basically contributed and how people would invite me and involve me in different projects because they suddenly knew I was the expert on this thinking.
Yeah. I mean, you got the door opened and then you delivered. That's the key, right? Because you had all the skills. You just needed the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and it was in a safe space as well. And for me, I think one of my values is belonging and feeling part of it. And I think it's finding out what is a person's value, what do they need to do, and that can help you as a leader to really think about how can I keep this person engaged? How is the work that they're doing or what they need connected to their own values?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about the stories that Cathrin and I just told, I mean, there's one common thing here, and that's the manager. We're not talking about perks. We're not talking about the fruit basket or the Christmas party, or we're talking about manager moves that you can do every day. It's about putting clear outcomes. It's about real autonomy. It's about coaching, and it's about safety to speak up, right?
Yeah. And this leads us to the next point, really. If these stories felt really powerful to you, that is because they were powerful to us. And that is because the manager made us feel empowered, right? And that is kind of like textbook examples of when managers can make a real difference. And if you are able to replicate similar moments for your employees, then you are actually part of the 70% that can make a variance.
Yeah. And again, it's not difficult,
No.
but it requires a little bit of focus and attention, right?
Absolutely.
And what is it? McKinsey called this something.
The boss factor. I think they
The
called it.
boss factor. I love that.
Yes.
Tell me more.
So the boss factor is basically where you make a difference in someone's life, and you are basically the one person that can make a difference. It almost comes back to kind of like the you never leave a company, but you leave a but you leave a manager because they have such a powerful impact on an employee's life.
And I think there's something in the boss factor as well, saying it actually not only drives job satisfaction, but actually feeds life satisfaction, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's also a well-being initiative almost.
Yeah, because if you're happy with your job, then obviously that will have a huge impact on your life. We spend so many hours a day in our job, like not just 9 to 5, but basically like 9 to 10 sometimes. And not 10 o'clock in the morning, in the evening, I mean.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, yes. And I guess it just kind of proves the point that a big survey is not enough. A company needs to equip their managers to make these choices, because that's what you do as a manager. You make choices on what to do and how to treat your employees and how to include them and involve them, right?
Yeah, and these moments are magic, right? They are repeatable behavior that you can constantly do, and that makes a huge difference of how people perceive you. And if you are able to almost repeat them with your team, you already won. In my books, at least.
And if you're thinking as a manager, where do I even start? I mean, start with the simple things. Set the outcome, remove the blockers, coach your team, and create safety.
Yeah. So let's get it super practical and think about what can managers now do after listening to us. What are the things that they can do to create engagement immediately?
Yes. We'll make the bit list together.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll start with the first one. And that's making work meaningful and clear.
Yeah.
So basically connect the team's work to the overarching goal so they understand the why of things and feel like they're part of something bigger.
Yeah, it's about starting with the why again.
Yes.
I feel that there's a bit of a golden thread there. But the second one for me would also be recognition, right? And be very specific about that. I mean, you can say, oh, job well done. I mean, sounds great, but how good would it sound if it be like, you know what, the presentation that you did was really well thought through and got a really big breakthrough with a client. That is so much more engaging and than just saying job well done. And think about kind of like, how do people want to be recognized? Now, I'm all about kind of like shouting loud and let other people know that I'm recognizing for, but some people want to be more recognized in a more quiet way and just a little thank you. And
you don't know until you ask them, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah. I think, I mean, this is the third one, but for me, it's kind of the most important one. It's building psychological safety.
Number one.
I mean, this came out of Google's massive study on team effectiveness, right?
Yeah.
So it just means making things, safe to speak up, share your opinions, and ask for help if you're uncertain.
And you know what? I think actually, if you haven't nailed the trust piece, and I not mean kind of like the reliability-based trust, but the trust that is really where people can say like, oh shit, I made a mistake, or I'm not good at this, can you help me? If you haven't nailed that, then actually recognizing someone or giving someone feedback, it will be really, really difficult. So yeah, if you focus on anything, do that.
Yes. And then the fourth one,
really quite short, really quite easy, having regular check-ins.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times companies have like bi-yearly or yearly performance reviews. But to be honest, do they really work? No, they don't really work. Just to give you a little bit spoiler alert. Especially if you are working with younger generations, you want to have regular one-to-one check-ins to make sure to understand what is their biggest goals, how do you want to drive their career, what are the obstacles that you can remove for them to help them grow and develop, basically.
Yeah. And then the fifth one is coach your team. So in your one-to-ones, figure out what are their strengths, what are their development areas. If you can connect kind of the team goal and where they can work on their strength, great. If they want to close a gap or jump on a stretch assignment because they need that for their next role, then coach them through that.
Yeah. And that's basically the list. And actually, it's a really nice list. And all of these things are things that managers can do quite easily. There's nothing in there that is rocket science or that is very difficult to do. It's these small daily habits that can make a huge impact on how engaged your team feels.
Yes. So let's land the plane. 3 big takeaways today.
Yeah.
First, engagement is a performance system. It's not a perk like a fruit basket.
Yeah.
Second, you have to act on both levels.
Yeah.
So the organizational level and the manager level with those daily habits.
Yeah. And then my third one, my favorite one, manager are a force multiplier. Now, the system, so the company that you work in can be as crappy as you want to be, or let's put it average, right? But if you've got a great manager, you don't care about as much. But if you have a crap manager, you can work in the best company whatsoever, you're going to leave.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the challenge for this week. Pick one of the 5 behaviors that we listed, like just one. Maybe it's recognition and you start by sending thank you notes. Maybe it's coaching and you start setting up those one-to-ones.
Yeah. And do that one thing, actually, and see what a difference it makes to your team's engagement.
Brilliant. So that's it for today's episode of The Leadership Effect. If you found this helpful, share it with another leader, connect with us on LinkedIn, and you'll find the details in the show notes.
Brilliant. Until then,
lead with curiosity
and with courage.